What is a repigmentation or filler? How do we do it? How do we mix it? How long do we leave it on for? All of those questions that you're asking. My name is Nikki Ramos on behalf of John Paul Mitchell Systems. When we hear color correction, we often think something wild and crazy, but in reality, most often it's just a slight adjustment to our color formulation that we need to be doing behind the chair. Here's a few scenarios that most often come into the salon. Number one, your guest comes in and they want to go 2 levels or more darker. They have previously lightened hair or porous hair. Scenario number 2, somebody comes in with compromised ends. They're having trouble really absorbing color. The color's not wanting to latch on, and that's giving some vibrancy or richness challenges. Another scenario might be porous hair coming into the salon. So it's fading very quickly when your guest goes home and takes care of it. All of these scenarios might be a need for filling the hair or a repigmentation, which essentially is taking all of those scenarios and putting warmth back into the hair. It's giving a backbone to the hair structure so that your target formula has something to latch onto. Let's take a look at our first approach. We can put just straight up the Demi 6N on this pre-lightened hair, and let's see what happens. Here is our first approach. We use straight up the Demi 6N on top of the blonde porous hair. At first glance, it looks okay, but I think the results are a little shorted as well. Sure, we saved a little bit of time, but when our guest looks in the mirror and they're evaluating their hair color, they might see that this brown looks a little bit mousy. It looks hollow. It doesn't really carry a lot of depth or dimension. When I pull the ends to the base, I see a difference in level and tone there as well. So it took a little bit differently in different areas depending on the porosity. So that's just something to consider. You do save a little time from not doing a 2-step process, but the performance of the product in the end result is decreased, and I'm not seeing vibrancy, not seeing as much shine and richness that my guest would like to see after their color service. And also, when my guest goes home, they take care of their hair color. I really can't guarantee any sort of longevity of this as well. It might look okay enough to leave the salon today, but 2 shampoos, it's not gonna look very good. For our second formula, we're gonna approach this in a different way by taking our target formula of 6N and adding in 6OR in order to add in the filler color or that lost dominant pigment, the warmth and richness back into the blonde hair. Before you begin, use your professional judgment to decide if it's necessary to do a pre-treatment of shampoo 2, shampoo 3 to deep cleanse the hair, and also a deep conditioner if you're having any sort of porosity or moisture balance issues. The formula that we'll use today is 2 ounces of 6N and a ½ ounce of 6OR Paul Mitchell the Demi with equal parts of processing solution. I might also recommend, as you're getting your plan together, that you do a couple different strand tests. And maybe you play with that formula and start with your base of 6N and have one of them with the OR, one with a G, and maybe even one with NB, those softer warm tones built in. Having 3 different strand tests can really give you a good indicator of how the end result is going to look. Here is our second approach where we did half of the head with the equivalent of 2 capfuls of 6OR to 6N, while the other half had 1 capful of 6OR to 6N. When we look at these results side by side, it's a pretty big difference of such a small amount of the orange red that was added to the formula. I see a lot of red coming through here in that richness, which is very beautiful. But if our guest is looking for more of a level 6 natural tone, they might not be satisfied with this end result. It is a bit too red. So that means we might have to go in and top coat this with the Demi, thus taking another 20 minutes. We didn't really save any time here. On this side here, we did save some time by adding a little bit of that warmth to get the depth. But when we look a little bit closer on these very porous ends, there is a bit of hollowness and it doesn't look as rich and vibrant, which also leads me to longevity for my guest. How many washes is this really going to hold up for? We'll never know. To sum it up, this might work really well for some hair colorists out there, but the margin of error is pretty small in such a small amount that we did with the OR. So it's really up to you if you want to take this risk in the salon. For our third and final option in repigmentation, this would be the ideal or recommended option for full longevity of the color. Our first step would be using the Demi to fill in the dominant pigment that was lost during the lightening process, and then using the Demi as a target formula on top. Any successful color correction scenario in the salon always starts with getting your guest properly prepared. We have prepared the blonde hair by first using Shampoo 3 to remove any mineral or product buildup, and then supercharged treatment to balance out the moisture and porosity before we get started. When formulating your repigmentation, you'll want to go one level lighter than your target formula and also use a soft, warm tone like NB, G, or OR in the Demi. The repigment formulation for today is Paul Mitchell the Demi, 1 ounce of 9G and a ½ ounce of 6OR with 1½ ounces of processing liquid. We're using a gold and an orange-red base to fill in the missing dominant pigment that was removed during the lightening process. Today our target formula is going to be Paul Mitchell the Demi 6N with equal parts of processing liquid. During your initial consultation, you'll want to walk through the steps of this color correction process with your guests, letting them know that during this process we are first going to make their hair a warm red-orange or perhaps a soft gold as their filler formula, and the target will go on top. Having that expectation forward with your guest will help them to not be too surprised when they see their hair at this processing moment. After you've processed your repigmentation for up to 20 minutes, rinse thoroughly and cleanse with Paul Mitchell Post Color Shampoo and Color Protect Conditioner. Dry the hair, and then we'll apply our target formula. So here is our recommended repigmentation formula. This would be the ideal scenario of somebody going from blonde hair to brown hair to have those colors layered in. It is a two-step process, so it does take a little bit longer, but as you can see, it has the beautiful rich dimension and vibrancy. We aren't seeing any off tones from it being on that porous blonde hair. And I know that this is going to give my guests the best longevity of her color. What I also love about this final result is that it's even from the scalp all the way through the ends. And you'll see compared to the other doll heads how they match up. My favorite thing about hair color is that it's not black and white. It truly is colorful. There's no guidelines, there's no rules, there's only mild suggestions. And as we see, 3 different approaches, 3 different results, now we've got our brains turning a little bit more. Now we know where to find the resources of information, where to find formulation steps and guidelines. We use the Demi today as our repigment formulation option as well as our target formula, but Keep in mind that you could always use Paul Mitchell the Demi as your Re-Pigment and then use Crema XG as your target formula, the color, or even the color XG. So many different opportunities to have beautiful, layered in, dimensional, rich, vibrant color for your guest looking to liven up their life just a little bit, going from blonde to brown. Hope you enjoyed today's class. You can find me on Instagram at Nikki Ramos Hair. Don't forget to check out paulmitchellpro.com for even more information, and follow us on Instagram, Paul Mitchell Pro, and here on our YouTube channel.